So I'll tell you why I think they're the same, and you tell me why you think they're not, if that's okay. Well,
please,
when people, well, let me give you an example. People can be possessed by a spirit at a football game.
Yeah.
And the teams are cooperating and competing in the way that you described. So there's a tribal element, but overall they're immersed in cooperation because they're all playing soccer. And then they're competing to hit a target fundamentally, which is the goal of most sports events, is to hit a target. Okay, so the teams organize themselves into hierarchies of talent, etc. Essentially, there's a star. Perhaps the star makes a phenomenal athletic gesture and hits the target. And the entire stadium stands up and spontaneously, right? And because they're observing something that inspires awe. And that awe-inspiring act is to hit the target. And they're all in that stadium celebrating the act of hitting the target. Now, I started to figure this out when I looked into the root of the word sin, because it's hamartia. It means to miss the target.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah. Wow is right. Wow is right. And so
the second wow was not as wowful.
That's pretty interesting, though. That
it is
the root of sin, it means to miss the target.
Yeah.
That's that is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. Very fascinating.
The opposite of that is.
Do you not think it is? Do you not understand the implication that he'd be drawing from? Saying that that the origination of sin would be to miss the woolly mammoth with your little spear. It's kind of an interesting concept because that's not how we conceptualize sin at all today.
It is. He also says all sports, it has to do with hitting a target, which I thought.
Is
even
true,
chess?
Well, team sports.
Oh, yeah. I guess it's individuals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you see in a stadium with that spontaneous manifestation of awe, the possession of the entire stadium often, and it's almost entirely unconscious because they get up on their feet before they think. And it's an act of worship, essentially, for that prowess shown, for that demonstration of how to hit the mark. And that's part of the imitative spirit, I think. It's part of imitating what's competent and heroic.
Okay, so I disagree with that analysis because I'm a Durkheimian. What would Emil Durkheim say about that? Is it that people are so amazed at the skill with which that guy kicked a ball into a net? I don't think so. Sports events of the kind you describe, that never happens with soccer in the United States. For us, it's more football and sometimes basketball. But of the kind you described, it's the pleasure, and anybody listening to this can probably think of times when they either sung in a choir or played in a band or played on a sports team, and you have that feeling of really becoming one. That is a I would say, a quasi-mystical or mystical experience. It's a sort of a loss of self emerging into something larger.
Yes.
That's my argument about this higher and lower level, the level of the sacred and the level of the profane. And Durkheim describes those are Durkheimian terms. He uses those terms. We can briefly enter the realm of the sacred. And if you're going to go see a football game, would you rather have an excellent view of the game alone in a room with an excellent screen, or maybe even just an excellent window? Or would you rather be part of the whole crowd that does the wave? I mean, think about the wave.
No, I agree with you.
People spontaneously figured out how they could become a super.
Because I think they're both right. I think Haidt's a little bit more right. That a lot of the emotion people get from cheering in the stands is that they're all sort of combining together to be one, communal entity to some extent. But part of that is that they all take joy not only from being together in this oneness, but also take joy from the player scoring the goal. And thus it's like it becomes like, oh, well, we all scored the goal because they scored.
I know.
You're all taking part of it. So that's why, I don't think either of them is wrong. And that's kind of, it's not like an if then or situation.
But I just don't, I don't feel, I guess I feel awe when I see somebody do something amazing, but not because he's a part of my team. It's a completely different feeling for me, being a part of a winning team, like seeing somebody do something amazing on a team that I'm a part of. is just, I mean, it's different than
Yeah,
you
but
don't have to see some, you don't have to be on the team to
sure,
have
sure.
awe
Listen,
from.
I don't feel this way either at sports games, but
Yeah.
that's because I'm a fucking asshole,
Mhm.
antisocial rebel.
Yeah.
So I can't draw from my own personal experiences here. I'm just drawing from the way other people react at these games where everyone gets very, hooked into the
Mhm.
atmosphere. It's kind of
Yeah.
acting together. And it's interesting because it's weird because what Haidt's saying now almost confirms what Peterson said earlier, that
Mhm.
awe and imitation is connected to each other in some way. Because if people are achieving this religious awe experience, as Haidt says, by all kind of acting together as one, then obviously imitation is going to play a huge part in that. So it's weird because he's sort of confirming what Peterson said that he disagreed with.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. So that adds a level of the mimicry.
Yeah, because you have to, in order for everyone to be as one, there has to be a mimicry. There has to be an imitation.
True.
And maybe that's the difference because we can experience awe as individuals and we can experience awe as groups. And I think, they're kind of related, but they're also different experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What moral foundation is? Awe is, there is not a moral foundation for awe, but it definitely is an emotion. Yeah.
But it's not a moral foundation. I mean, your morality is not based around like emotions in that extent.
Are there emotions that can't be traced to moral foundations theory? I've thought about this before, but not really deeply. I haven't really cataloged all the emotions. Like love could be like traced to caring and loyalty and like all of them. Love is kind of like a super combination of multiple emotions at the same time. But
yeah, but I mean, awe is too, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, I
you
don't
would say,
know.
well, it depends. If we're talking about group awe, there'd be some element of loyalty, some element of sanctity, probably in there.
I mean,
And
I'm
then
trying to think of experiences where I've had of awe.
Right. But if you're talking
Yeah.
about individual awe, it would be completely individualized. I don't like it wouldn't fall into a specific category because it'd be situationally dependent.
Yeah. Do you remember experiences of awe that you could
Sure.
trace back to a moral foundation? Yeah, it's a tough one, huh? Awe is like,
Well, I'm trying to think. Would it trace back to a specific moral foundation?
I've
is this the
saw
way
like
moral foundations are supposed to be used? I never really conceptualized it this way.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious. I'm curious because moral foundation, like I pay attention when I feel caring or loyalty, betrayal, or any of the ones that are just totally strike to the core that I think this is authority subversion right here.
Right.
This is liberty oppression right here. I feel the oppression. We were doing that with an academic agent. We were like, that's right. We're not going to watch your videos.
Well, okay.
Feel oppressed. Feel the oppression.
That's hilarious. So, like, okay, if people generally, like, when they have singular experiences of awe, okay, that's like they have a religious experience.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's like, oh, I felt God's love. So would that be like super care foundation?
Well, no, I was thinking like I saw the Grand Canyon, that feeling like, wow, that wow feeling. Or when I've been, when you go camping and the first night you look up at the stars and you're like, Jesus Christ, there's a fucking billion of them. It's like just a blanket of stars.
I see. Well, like when you feel like something is beyond you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, but
I guess you feel small. That's interesting.
Right. It makes you feel small. That's interesting because I never, that sensation of feeling
tiny,
small, but that's not really what they were talking about because they're talking about the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, though, but that's interesting that you bring that up because that is a form of awe, and yet they have the completely opposite. You have one form of awe where you feel smaller than yourself, but it doesn't make you feel bad. It makes you feel good. See, but how is that? What's up with that?
This is why I'm with Haidt though, because the two experiences that I pulled out so readily have nothing to fucking do with groupishness. They have nothing to do with being part of a team. They don't. awe just is completely separate from those
Well, but
other
maybe
emotions.
you just don't like this word awe.
Mhm. No,
maybe-
awe is great. I love it.
No, but like, would you refer to a bunch of people? So a guy scores a goal, and 90% of the audience, except for the Sitches and Adams, all
We
jump
don't
to their
feel
feet
awe,
in
yeah.
exuberant joy. Maybe we just shouldn't call that awe. Maybe we should just call it something else.
Yeah. I've never experienced awe in some sort of sporting environment. So maybe we're just ill-equipped for that. Yeah.
Mhm.
We would have to dig in on what Jordan Peterson means by awe.
Right.
I think of it as stars, obviously Grand Canyon. That's why I was asking you, what are you thinking when people say awe, what's the moment that you look to?
Right.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Superorganism.
Mhm. Yeah,
So-
no, I'm not disagreeing at all.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a collective element of that worship that's exactly in keeping with what you're describing. And it does unite people
Yes.
in the imitation of a spirit in exactly the same way that they're united in a concert or when they're playing in a
Mhm.
band. I think those are all
see.
manifestations of the same thing. And so I'm
I
not
see.
saying that it's only individual by any stretch of the
Right, right, right.
imagination,
Okay.
because there'd be nothing that would unite. See, in the stadium, they're united around that.
Right.
Right?
Okay. So let's focus on imitation here. I guess the
Yeah.
reason I disagreed with you is that imitation is such an important human ability for learning. The fact that we, and here I draw from Joe Henrich and others, their approach to cultural evolution, Joe's book, Why Humans Cooperate, and The Weirdest People in the World. And for humans, the nature of the game is not who has the biggest, strongest, or the biggest teeth. It's who learns the most, who learns the best. And we have all this optimization for learning fast.
Mhm.
And imitation is a big part of that. So we do imitation, but we do selective imitation, and we figure who should I imitate. So that would be a sort of a lower level, ubiquitous, crucial human ability that we have, has nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with awe. But then I think we can bring our accounts together by saying,
See, he just pointed out, he says nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with awe. This is what I was saying earlier, that imitating is an individual thing.
Well, that's not what he's saying. He's saying that imitation is a very baseline biological,
Right.
animalistic
It's
function.
like
And
eating.
we'll still say it's a step up from eating. And then he's saying that religion and awe experiences is like a step up from that.
Mhm.
But he's going to bring them together. So let's see how he does this.
now then we also have this thing about we're able to come together in larger groups to pursue common interests, especially in competition. And as we do that, we use our imitation abilities. We draw on our imitation abilities. And so religious worship, it's always puzzling me. In Judaism, you daven, you bow, but it's not in sync. So that one is, I think, a little different. But often you sing, you sway in harmony. You do what everyone else does. And so
That's to atone.
The
At
davening
one.
is to
Atonement.
Oh, at one mint.
Yes,
Huh.
absolutely. Yes. So let's go back to
Wow.
imitation.
Okay.
So, okay. So
I was so frustrated that he totally derailed the conversation.
No, but see, so I don't know. See, you're taking it like this way. I disagree. I think that's what he says interesting is that if the concept of atonement derives from people trying to get back to the oneness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting because that means
It is.
that means that this idea that whenever we sin, we're breaking off of the community, the group, the oneness. And so to me, I think the thing would be that it's not. I think what Haidt should say, or what I was in a situation, is that I do think that the mechanic, the biological mechanism of imitation, obviously, is a much older mechanism in human beings, or just in animals in general. But then, like religiousness or awness or whatever this thing is that we're talking about, this sense of community. But obviously, as evolution, it always uses previous tools to iterate and improve and build upon that. So it definitely uses imitation and mimicry in order to achieve awness in this group sense.
Yeah. E pluribus unum is out of many one too.
Right.
That's our national motto. Getting back to the one. That's
Did you-
what a lot of people want to do.